Right Network. Mobilizing, countering the left, energizing the right. New Right Network, home of the New Right movement.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to New Right Network tonight. Your host, Brian Smith, giving you all the real news and exposing the fake news out there that's being propagated in the MSNBCs and CBS and the ABCs and the CNNs. All the mainstream media, folks. This is where you'll see the real news. News all around from either social media, articles, new blogs, new voices, and New Right Network. As Donald Trump fights to make America great again, America First agenda, we've got the vote on the border wall, and it is out of control. We've got Republicans that are looking to jump ship. We got Republicans that are getting weak-kneed, and we've got other outlets that are calling these representatives out, like Lou Dobbs. Lou Dobbs doing a great job, had Ronna McDaniels on his show talking about the weak-kneed Republicans. We need to get Donald Trump's back on this. There's no question about it. Border wall, border security, absolutely the number one thing that Donald Trump ran on in 2016. Almost every single rally, border wall, border security. And so Donald Trump tweeted out earlier today, if at a later date Congress wants to update the law, I will support those efforts. But today's issue is border security and crime. Don't vote with Pelosi. Yesterday, there was an article in the Washington Times about Nancy Pelosi saying that this is all political and it's all about Trump and that she's not going to vote with or for the Republicans' overhaul of the president's ability to call for a national emergency. I'm not sure why the Republicans feel that they need to rewrite this, why they need to restrict any other president, whether it be this president or the next, on national emergencies. Since 1976, we've had all presidents calling national emergencies. We've had dozens of them called. Not one single one was in question. And now we've got Republican rhinos that are siding with the Democrats, attempting to limit this president because they don't like him. They're voting against border security. They're voting against America, and they're voting against the American people. This is not what we elected these individuals to do. Building the wall and border security is only a problem now because Donald Trump wants a wall. We've got reports now, breaking news, big news, this from the Gateway Pundit. Paul Rhino Ryan, we knew how bad he was, but now it just gets even worse. Apparently, Donald Trump, in an interview with Breitbart News, explains to them that not only did Paul Rhino Ryan fight Donald Trump on the wall, but he also blocked subpoenas. Yes, that's right. In the first 2 years of Donald Trump's presidency, there were subpoenas that were to be sent out to Democrats for investigations. And Paul Rhino Ryan blocked every single subpoena, blocked the hands of other representatives in the GOP investigating Democrats for crimes that they were doing. Yes, that's right. Paul Rhino Ryan siding with the Democrats, and now it's official. Now we see it. We knew this border had to have been built. It had to be built during the first 2 years of Donald Trump's administration, the funding for the border, because we, the Republicans, had the House, the Senate, and the executive branch. It was a no-brainer. But we saw as Paul Ryan wrecked the ability to get rid of Obamacare. We also saw Paul Rhino Ryan also wreck the ability for the American people to get the border wall. This is just unconscionable. But now that he's gone, we can move forward. And this at Chief MAGA Veteran at D1V5C, replying to Real Donald Trump. No collusion? Obama's crimes dwarfed Watergate. Democrats are the racist, project, Antifa, fascists. They gaslight. MSN is fake news propaganda run by the globalist billionaires. Hashtag Democrats votes are bought and pandered, supplemented by hashtag voter fraud, hashtag build the wall. That's absolutely what is going on here, folks. The uniparty that is supported by open borders, George Soros organizations will not build the wall for the American people to keep us safe and protect us from invasions from the southern border. They want this on purpose because now, as we're seeing from Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, that we have not only tens of thousands of illegals voting, but we've got hundreds of thousands of possible illegals voting across the country in huge blocks. This has got to stop. This has to get under control. And check out this video with Tom Fitton. He explains it a little bit more.
Federal law allows individuals and groups like Judicial Watch who are aggrieved to sue states over their failure to take reasonable steps to clean up the election rolls, because we found in states like California, they have more people on the rolls than are eligible to vote. So we successfully sued in Ohio. We had a settlement. In Indiana, we sued. Indiana, did what we needed them to do, so we ended the lawsuit. In Kentucky, I think it was one of the worst states, believe it or not. A Republican-controlled state largely, had more people on the rolls than were eligible to vote. And these are people who would otherwise be, when there are more people on the rolls than are actually living there, it means you've got people who have moved away who are still on the rolls, or dead people who are still on the rolls. And it's my view, dirty voting rolls can mean dirty elections. So nationally, there are 3.5 million, our great Judicial Watch lawyers and investigators found, 3.5 million extra names on the rolls than are eligible to vote. And 1.56 million of them, we confirmed, are in Los Angeles County. So we sued Los Angeles County and the state of California over that massive problem. And they settled, and they agreed to remove up to 1.56 million inactive names, which are names that shouldn't be there, off the rolls over the next few years. So we've cut the problem potentially in half just with that one successful settlement. But on top of that, there's this news out of Texas, which is related, which is that you had up to 100,000 illegal aliens or aliens registered to vote illegally. And of those, up to 60,000 or so may have voted. And that's in one state. Pennsylvania announces 11,000 names, potentially aliens on the rolls who should not be there, who could be voting. So not only is voter fraud real, but it's potentially very real in the sense of having aliens unlawfully present and lawfully present here registered to vote. And I've calculated, because there's this study, I don't know if you've seen it, Bruce, out of Old Dominion University. We've talked about it extensively here at Judicial Watch. And it's a numbers game. You've got XX million numbers of illegal aliens and just aliens who are here lawfully, they have green cards, and a percentage of them are going to register to vote, both in a knowingly criminal way and accidentally. And of those, a percentage are going to vote. And they vote in large enough numbers to influence elections. It makes sense. And when you look at the numbers from this study, you extrapolate them, for instance, to 2016, I'd estimate about 1.2 million aliens voted in the presidential elections, 80% of which tend to vote Democrat. So Hillary Clinton got 80% of those votes. If you look at them in 2018, those numbers, given the turnout, I'd estimate you had 900,000 aliens unlawfully vote in the midterm elections.
Now, as we have former head of ICE, Tom Homan, on Fox News. Folks, this is really simple. It's not that hard, as he explains.
I've said it many times. There's no downside on securing our southern border. There is no downside on less illegal immigration. There's no downside on less drugs. And there's certainly no downside on the stopping bankrolling the criminal cartels that smuggle these people. And there's no downside on saving lives.
This has to get done. It has to be done. Donald Trump must build this wall. And as we're speaking right now, there are parts of the wall being built. We've got Right Side Broadcasting Network that actually went down to the border with drones flying around and actually videotaping portions of the wall being built. And we all know the facts. And why are we saying this again and again? Why are we talking about the border wall again and again and again? Because politicians promised this for decades. Matter of fact, go all the way back to Ronald Reagan when it was passed to build a border wall. Yes, they passed a bill to build a border wall along with Ronald Reagan agreeing to amnesty. What happened to that border wall? It was defunded. Just the same reason why the Republicans and the Democrats are doing to Donald Trump and the American people now, today, they're doing the exact same thing all over again. They're refusing to fund this border wall because it doesn't fit their narrative. It's not part of their agenda. They are not America first. Just like Brexit, just like France, where their countries are being invaded, Germany, the country's being invaded, and now we've got Denmark. Yes, there's a story out of Denmark about how Denmark is actually being destroyed from within because of the flood of immigration that is going into Denmark. The article talks about 2050, 2060, population in Denmark will be immigrants. This massive immigration to other countries is destroying their countries within. There's no longer this push for nationalism by the upper elites. They want a one world order and a globalist society so that they can control all the money at the very top and keep the rest of us down. That's why they're fighting so hard on this border wall. And again, on Twitter, at GOP chairwoman Ronna McDaniels has been an absolute champion for this president. People were nervous at first when she was tapped to be the head of the GOP because her uncle is Mitt Romney. Yes, we were all nervous. But as you saw her beat back Mitt Romney with the vile comments to President Trump, if you're on social media, Twitter, you can see that Ronna McDaniels is a huge champion for Donald Trump, posting up articles and videos, helping to support his agenda, America first, make America great again, keep America great. Or as she tweets out this video, she writes, "It didn't used to be a bipartisan issue. Democrats used to support borders and barriers. But now that real Donald Trump is president, they're playing partisan politics with a national security and a humanitarian crisis." The video features Representative Mike Rogers, and as he talks about not the grams or ounces of fentanyl coming across the border, but the pounds of drugs that are coming across the border. And what is a pound of drugs coming across the border? What does that mean for the citizens of America? And what is the effect of pounds, truckloads of fentanyl coming across the border? Here he explains.
In fiscal year 2018, CBP seized 895,000 pounds of drugs at the border. That includes approximately 2,100 pounds of fentanyl. To put that in perspective, just 2 milligrams of fentanyl are a fatal dose to a person, according to the DEA. 2,135 pounds of fentanyl represents a lethal dose for 484 million people, more than the entire population of our country. That equals, if that isn't an emergency, I don't know what is. And contrary to what some say, CBP actually seizes more pounds of drugs between ports of entry than at ports of entry. Since FY 2012, CBP has seized more than 11 million pounds of drugs between ports of entry compared to only 4 million pounds at ports of entry. Mr. Chairman, we have to stop the flow of illegal immigrants and community-destroying drugs across our southwest border. We must put an end to the transnational gangs that profit off these illegal enterprises and bring crime to American streets. The only way to do that is to secure the border. And we need an all-of-the-above approach to border security that includes manpower, 21st century technology, and barriers. With this approach, we will deter human trafficking, human smugglers, and others from crossing hundreds of miles of open desert with innocent children and putting those children in grave danger. Fewer drugs will make it into the United States, saving lives and making our community safer. We know an all-of-the-above approach works. In areas where we have built a wall system, illegal traffic has plummeted. In San Diego, illegal traffic dropped 92% after the barrier was erected. In El Paso, illegal traffic dropped 95%. And in Tucson, illegal traffic dropped 90%. Let's build on this success. Border security and keeping Americans safe used to be priorities for both our parties. I've been on this committee since, just like the chairman, since its inception. We never argued about whether barriers worked until Donald Trump wanted them. This is not rocket science.
As he explains that there's enough fentanyl coming across the border to kill 481 million people. That's more than the people in America. The American population is somewhere around 320 million. So you're talking well over 160 million more people. This is absolute pure insanity, and this hits home to a lot of us. It hits home to us here personally in our family. We have a good friend that's battling and has been battling for years, the drug addiction, the heroin addiction. So a lot of us can get very passionate about this as well. This has to stop. We're watching families being broke up. We're watching children that are being raised without fathers. That's why Donald Trump is so passionate about this border wall. I'm not sure if you guys remember this, but Donald Trump lost his brother to drugs and alcohol. So this hits home to him as well. You'll never see another president ever in our lifetimes, in our children's lifetimes, and our grandchildren's lifetimes that fights so hard for the American people. This president absolutely stands for the American people. That's why they hate him so much. Mainstream media hates him. The Democrats hate him. The Uniparty, the Republican rhinos hate him. The globalists hate him. And you see around the world, wherever Donald Trump goes, whether it be a visit to Vietnam or somewhere in Europe, you see the citizens, not the politicians and not the paid protesters, but you see the citizens actually excited to see President Donald Trump because they know, they get it. He is a president of the people. And again, last time when he was in Vietnam, it was kind of funny. Somebody put a video up on social media where a group of Vietnamese men were actually getting their hair dyed and colored yellow and to look like Donald Trump's hair. I'm the best compliment. So the people of the world, they get it and they understand it. And the video of Christian Nielsen, head of the DHS, very passionate about border security, very passionate about the border wall. She was testifying on Capitol Hill, and the staggering numbers. And you can hear in her voice the need and the desire and the want for border security for all Americans and for those attempting the trek. Folks, this is something they don't like talking about. They don't like talking about the actual rapes, the kidnappings, the child trafficking because of illegal immigration. The child trafficking and the rapes are beyond anything that anybody can imagine. Some statistics put the numbers up into 80,000 rapes within the last year, as well as something that they don't talk about, something called a rape tree. Now, if you live on the border, you know what a rape tree is. For those of you who don't know what it is, this is a picture of a rape tree. Yes, as you can see, there are undergarments hanging from the tree. That's to let everybody know that a smuggler came through here, and this is a rape area where they'll rape the women and then throw their garments up in the trees. This is the sick, sadistic mind that we're fighting right now. That and the drug cartels getting rich off killing our friends and our family and our neighbors. As you listen to head of the DHS talk about illegal crossings, this is why Donald Trump wants the wall built.
We also will continue to uphold our humanitarian ideals, but illegal immigration is simply spiraling out of control and threatening public safety and national security. We face a crisis, a real, serious, and sustained crisis at our borders. We have tens of thousands of illegal aliens arriving at our doorstep every month. We have drugs, criminals, and violence spilling into our country every week. And we have smugglers and traffickers profiting from human misery every single day by exploiting people who are seeking a better life, deceiving them about our laws, and fueling everything from sexual slavery to child exploitation to the smuggling of illicit goods. Make no mistake, this chain of human misery is getting worse. Yesterday, we announced that the numbers of apprehension at our southern border have spiked again, substantially. Since late last year, we have been seeing 50 to 60,000 migrants arrive at our southern border each month. But in February, we saw a 30% jump over the previous month, with agents apprehending or encountering nearly 75,000 aliens. This is an 80% increase over the same time last year. And I can report today that CBP is forecasting the problem will get even worse this spring as the weather warms up. The projections are dire. The agency is now on track to apprehend more migrants crossing illegally in the first 6 months of this fiscal year than the entirety of FY17. And at the current pace, we are on track to encounter close to 1 million illegal aliens at our southern border this year. Our capacity is already severely restrained, but these increases will overwhelm the system entirely. This is not a manufactured crisis. This is truly an emergency.
And another connection that I've been trying to make for a while now is that you folks need to understand what is going on in Venezuela. What is going on in Venezuela is having a direct effect on immigrants coming to America. What's going on in the southern countries, whether it be Colombia, whether it be Honduras, Guatemala, or even Mexico itself. The fact that socialism has gotten such a grip on Southern America. These people are coming here because they want to live a better life. In America, we have capitalism. In America, we work hard. In America, we get paid for what we do. It's not a socialist society. You don't just take everybody's money and redistribute the wealth. That's what's happened in Venezuela. It has completely destroyed itself because of the President Hugo Chavez and now his successor, Maduro. Thomas 1774 Payne on Twitter reports that Mike Pompeo says to the embassy in Venezuela, it's time to come home. We don't even have an embassy in Venezuela anymore. That's how bad it's gotten. We showed the video. They're over the side of a roadway, down at the bottom where sewer water, runoff water from the roads, sewer water coming out of a big giant pipe. These people in Venezuela are bathing in sewage water. They're drinking sewage water. This is what socialism gets you. Ocasio-Cortez, Democrats, Bernie Sanders. We cannot and will not allow this to happen in America. We are watching socialism on display around the world. And again, Denmark being destroyed from within because of the mass migration into Denmark. We've already seen the riots in France because of the mass migration, the yellow vests taking to the streets. We've seen many videos coming out of Germany because of the mass migration and taking over of their country. And when I say mass migration, I don't say it as a legal migration. It literally is armies of healthy, strong Islamic Muslim men coming into these countries to take over and dominate these countries. And don't think that they're not trying to do this. They're doing this on purpose. This is their goal. Allah, the Quran, has informed them and tells them that you must take back the earth because the earth is yours. And as Christians, we know differently. We know that the earth is not ours. We know that our lives with God, and we're just walking through this earth to pick up those that wish a better existence. And in the Bible, it says the meek shall inherit the earth. Folks, we cannot be meek anymore because we do not want to inherit this. We need to move forward. We need to talk about this and expose this. And again, Venezuela completely fallen apart. It's the fourth day without electricity in major cities. So now you have food rotting in homes. You have no water, people bathing in the sewer. And Marco Rubio has made this a point of his to expose what is going on in Venezuela. And he tweets out at Marco Rubio, hashtag Putin cronies sank billions of dollars into the disaster that is hashtag Maduro crime family in Venezuela. And most of it will never be repaid. This article by Reuters, the title, How Russians Sank Billions of Dollars into the Venezuelan Quicksand. Folks, real quick, the article is all about how Russian oil oligarchs wanted to prop up Hugo Chavez and the socialist regime for political reasons. Putin is longtime friends, head of the Russian government-owned oil company. They're really good friends together. They believe that propping up Maduro, propping up the oil industry in Venezuela is part of their agenda. They really, truly do want socialism. They really, truly do want total control at the top, the upper elites. And now we see as other oil companies around the world exited Venezuela, Russia stepped in, attempting to prop up the entire regime. And now curious as to where $700 billion has disappeared into the Maduro regime. This doesn't end well, and we have to rid the Americas. We have to rid the Americas of socialism and of communism. We have to bring them back into the fold of capitalism, whether it be diplomatic processes or not. Something has to change in South America. And we, as Americans, need to start to take responsibility. I know we're showing the world how to do it and the way it should be done, but we absolutely need to help our neighbors. We need to help rescue them in a sense, whatever process that entails. I'm not quite sure yet. Our hearts go out to those in Venezuela that absolutely desperately need food and water, basic necessities of life. This disaster caused by socialism, caused by super elites, if you will, the Putin regime, Hugo Chavez's regime, and now Maduro's regime. Here closer to home, just north of us as an elected official, Jeff Capel, what did socialists use to light their homes before candles? Electricity. Folks, It's absolutely true. This is what happens every single time. Look at North Korea on a satellite image of the nighttime. The North Korean peninsula is blacked out. This is what happens. Socialism leads to communism. Communism destroys. Parallel that with Islam. They both destroy. And I know it sounds like we're beating the drum too much, but we've got to keep saying this, and we've got to keep educating individuals out there on what the truth is. We've got to say this on a daily, hourly basis to make sure that everybody knows why this is happening. The Democrats running for 2020 president have tied themselves to socialism, and we're watching socialism destroy. We've seen Democrats destroy. Now we've got Governor Gavin Newsom out in California continuing the destruction, just now stopping all inmates on death row from execution. So child murderers, child rapists will not face punishment. And there was a joke that people would say in California that the majority of people on death row die of old age in California. It's a sad fact, folks. Democrats destroy everything they touch. Look at Detroit City, Michigan. They've completely turned Dearborn, Michigan into a little Middle East. It's unrecognizable. If you traveled up there, you would think that you would transform back into somewhere in the Middle East. We've got to stop the nonsense. We've only got a few short years to do it. Donald Trump's president ends in 2024. Folks, this is the New Right Network. This is the voices of the people that are stepping up to get the word out. New Right Network tonight is our show. We've partnered up with New Right Network, the big tent media outlet, new voices, new ideas, new shows, new writers. This is where it's at, folks. And we've got to continue to share this information all around social media. You can find the show every single night, Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, I'm your host, Brian Smith. And if this is the first time you've been on the show, I'd much appreciate it. Crush the share, crush the follow, hit the subscribe button. It really, really does help. Thank you for all the hearts and the likes. Whether you're watching this on Periscope Live, crush the hearts. If you're watching this on Facebook Live, crush the Facebook faces. And if you're watching this live on YouTube, crush the like, crush the share, and crush the subscribe. 2 tiers of justice and more double standards in the news, folks. This is out of control. There's a lot of information that's breaking right now. And like I said earlier, this reported by the Gateway Pundit, President Trump interview with Breitbart News. Paul Ryan blocks subpoenas of Democrats. Ryan was on the other side. President Donald Trump is not happy that former House Speaker Paul Ryan blocked subpoenas of people and entities that Donald Trump thinks the House GOP should have been investigating during the first 2 years of his administration. Clearly, we now see the collusion between Hillary Clinton, Fusion GPS, the Democrat National Committee, Paul Rhino Ryan, John McCain involved as well. James Comey, call him a Republican. No, he's one of the Bush boys. Trying to say that Rod Rosenstein is a Republican? Nope. Sorry, wrong again. McCabe? I don't think so. His wife ran as a Democrat in Virginia for the first time ever and received millions of dollars from the Democrat National Committee. The real collusion. Fusion GPS and the Uniparty. All of them involved with the FBI. And now we're finding out that John Brennan was a key player that's starting this entire Russian PP dossier gate created by Christopher Steele, hired by Fusion GPS, disseminated information from Nellie Orr to her husband, Bruce Orr. And on a side note, Nellie Orr was a Russian specialist, and we believe the DOJ brought her in so that she could look at the NSA's log of people that they were spying on. Highly illegal criminal acts have been committed here and absolutely need to pay for it. People are now screaming for Donald Trump to release the FISA warrant unredacted. I believe that is coming soon. And this by NBC News. Democrats and Republicans joined together in a unanimous vote, 420-0, to make Mueller's report available to the public. Yes, you heard that right. They want to make Mueller's report on Donald Trump available to the public unredacted. Now, what does this mean? This means that Mueller's report will not be released. I'm telling you, folks, this is a fight. This is an absolute fight for our country. The Democrats and the Republicans Republicans unknowing that the Democrats are playing them. The Democrats are playing the Republicans, knowing that they would vote along with them to reveal Mueller's report on Donald Trump to the public because it's not going to be made public. The Democrats know this. And so it's gaslighting their own people to make it look like Donald Trump will not allow the report to be released. More blame on the Trump administration. Because if the report is released, it will show no collusion. And the Democrats absolutely do not want that. And this by the Washington Times. Peter Strzok never saw Hillary Clinton as a target in the email scandal. More collusion. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Remember the insurance policy. Remember Peter Strzok texting, saying that Hillary Clinton should win the White House 100 million to 0. And then claims that his bias for Hillary Clinton never affected his judgment and oversight of the Clinton scandal. There's multiple things that Attorney General Barr needs to do now. He needs to launch an investigation into Fusion GPS and launch an investigation back into the Hillary Clinton email scandal. And as we played on the show yesterday, a clip of James Comey exonerating Hillary Clinton from back in the day. Yes, she had top secret emails on her server, unsecured. If she had used Gmail, she'd have had more security, according to James Comey. And now she gets off scot-free. This is the double standard. This is the two-tiered system. The young gentleman that served in the Navy that was in a submarine, taking a picture and sending it back to his wife and child so they could see what he was doing. Yes, that is against the rules. However, over-aggressive lawyer, throwing him in prison, ruining his military career, ruining his family and his lifestyle. He attempted to plead the Hillary Clinton case. Said, I didn't know. And Donald Trump commuting his sentence so at least he can go back home. This is the two-tiered justice system that we live under today. And this by GOP chairwoman Ronna McDaniels. The recently released transcripts of the text between FBI lovers Lisa Page and Peter Strzok discussing an insurance policy further proves that the bogus investigation into real Donald Trump have been a political vendetta from the start. We know this. Dan Bongino's book, Spygate, phenomenal book, lays out the plan, lays out the attempt to coup, lays it out as how the Democrat Party, the FBI, the CIA, the Obama administration attempting to overthrow our election, and then when Donald Trump won, to overthrow a duly elected president. People must go to prison. If people do not go to prison or are not charged by 2024, it will probably never happen. Breaking news with General Flynn. It has been announced that his work is complete in regards to Mueller as AG Barr meeting with Mueller wraps up. However, Weissman still wanted to press for more. And this by Jack Posobiec at One America Network.
One of the first pieces of information that we've got in terms of how Bill Barr is conducting oversight of the Mueller investigation came just a few days ago when we heard that Mueller and his team went to Bill Barr asking that they wanted to continue the cooperation agreement that they had with General Flynn in leading towards a new indictment. They went to Barr and asked him if they could extend Flynn's cooperation. Bill Barr responded to them, do you have something ironclad that you want General Flynn to be cooperating on? Do you have something in terms of probable cause moving towards an indictment, or is this just a fishing expedition? Mueller and Barr held a conversation, and they later determined that what they had wasn't quite enough. Now, some of the prosecutors working under Mueller, like Weissman, did want to push forward and ask for more cooperation, but Barr said it wasn't enough, and therefore Mueller released a statement saying that officially, for the first time, General Flynn's cooperation agreement has been ended. Now, this is a big indication that Barr is not Jeff Sessions or Rod Rosenstein. He is actually working with Mueller to reel in the investigation and move things on towards their end. But as newly released transcripts come out from FBI lawyer Lisa Page and other members of the Department of Justice and Fusion GPS, people are asking, and the President of the United States himself, Donald Trump, has asked, why isn't Bill Barr conducting an investigation of Fusion GPS. What we're learning now is that Lisa Page and Peter Strzok had no hard evidence or probable cause when they conducted and began the investigation into Trump and his possible ties to Russia. In her own words, the insurance policy was referring simply to that investigation itself, known as Russiagate today, and saying that they only had information that they had received from another source. That other source, we've learned through other testimony, was in fact John Brennan of the CIA, and he was referring back to Fusion GPS's research and the information that later turned out to be what we know as the Steele dossier. Essentially, the start of Crossfire Hurricane came about because of the Steele dossier.
And this reported by the Gateway Pundit, General Flynn being looked at for retroactively filing paperwork when Tony Podesta, John Podesta's brother, was tipped off to retroactively file paperwork for things that were 5 years or older, the double standard. If you're with Donald Trump, you'll go to prison. If you're with Hillary Clinton, you'll stay out of prison. So Paul Manafort now getting more prison time, I believe up to 7.5 years, while Tony Podesta is still free. Paul Manafort worked with Tony Podesta and Turkey. Tony Podesta filed his paperwork afterwards and is now free, yet Paul Manafort is doing 7.5 years for almost the exact same thing, the double standard. And I want to remind everybody that Paul Manafort was only with Donald Trump's team for about 6 months. He came on a little bit later on and then was released by the summer of 2016. And this by the Gateway Pundit. In October 2017, the Gateway Pundit reported that the Podesta Group somehow managed to file forms with the federal government retroactively that were 5 or more years overdue, that Paul Manafort was charged for not filing. The Podestas were tipped off by deep state officials. Paul Manafort also filed his forms retroactively. Today, Manafort sits in solitary confinement. Manafort worked for Trump. That's how it goes, folks. They're trying to destroy us from within. And this by Representative Adam Schiff, Shifty Eyes Schiff, whose opening speech was an absolute lie and attempting to indict the entire administration early on. Shifty-eyed Adam Schiff colluding with Fusion GPS in Colorado. How many times did Fusion GPS and Adam Schiff meet? How many times did he meet with Bruce Orr or Nellie Orr? How many times did he meet with Christopher Steele? How much does Adam Schiff know Paul Rhino Ryan? Blocked investigations into Adam Schiff. So Schiff tweets out another sentencing, another statement by Manafort's lawyer repeating Trump's mantra of no collusion, and another barely concealed appeal for a pardon. It shouldn't fall to the Manhattan DA to deter a presidential pardon. Congress should take action to protect the rule of law. Absolutely, Congress should take action to protect the rule of law. They should investigate the entire Democrat Party. That's how we protect the rule of law. And again, at GOP Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, history of anti-real Donald Trump, New York AG, shows this is a political hit job. Spitzer said he's a stain on the presidency. Cuomo attacked him nonstop. Schneiderman opened 100 legal admin actions against him. Now, Leetta James, who calls POTUS illegitimate, is just as biased. This is why they go to the New York district, because they have such biases, and why Paul Manafort gets 7.5 years, while Michael Cohen gets 2. More bias. He was facing a max of 70 years in prison. Now he might be even facing more time. Mark Meadows tweets out at Representative Mark Meadows, at Jim Jordan, and I referred Michael Cohen to the Department of Justice for possible perjury. We sent a letter to the chairman Cummings asking him to join us. Cohen lied under oath about seeking a pardon and about wanting a White House job offer. Just to name 2, hold him accountable at GOP oversight. Michael Cohen's testimony, the entire testimony was being fact-checked in real time. He was lying through his teeth constantly. He couldn't stop lying. Jim Jordan called him out, lying. Mark Meadows calling him out, lying. Video footage of him on CNN and he desperately wanted a job with the Trump administration. And Don Jr. tweeting out that it was a running joke in the administration that Michael Cohen desperately wanted a job in the administration, and they all knew there was no way that was going to happen. Michael Cohen saying he didn't seek a presidential pardon under oath. As we know, video shows he did seek a pardon from Donald Trump, without a doubt. Michael Cohen's crimes have absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump. It's his own undoing. At GOP chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, there couldn't be a bigger disconnect between what the media obsesses over and what the voters actually care about. At Real Donald Trump came to states like mine and promises to make this country great again. That's exactly what he's done, and it's why he's going to win again in 2020. Check out this video.
I will tell you the voters around the country aren't talking about this. They're talking about the fact that their wages are up for the first time in a decade. They're talking about jobs coming back. They feel better about the economy. That's what they're talking about. They think this is a DC story. This is a Beltway story, and it's not something that affects their day-to-day lives. They're looking for politicians to come into their states, like my state of Michigan, and say, what are you going to do to make my life better? Michael Cohen doesn't factor in. They want to see this Mueller report done. They want to see it finished. And I think the Democrats are at a tipping point now. If they use these next 2 years to just investigate and continue to go after this president and not focus on how do I make lives better for the people I represent, I think it's a mistake.
And more hypocrisy, more bias by media against Tucker Carlson. Why? Because Tucker Carlson is absolutely exposing them and destroying them. And again, yesterday we talked about how Tucker Carlson is calling out the Washington Post, or as we've referred to it as the Washington Compost, owned by Jeff Bezos and Amazon. And so now we have fake news CNN trying to throw shade and trying to cover up for Media Matters.
Carasone is himself an enthusiastic bigot. We know this for sure because he has written about it extensively. It turns out that for years, Carasone maintained a racist blog. One post entitled, quote, Tranny Paradise, addressed a crime story from Thailand. A Bangladeshi man had been robbed and assaulted by a group of male prostitutes dressed as women. Carasone objected to the idea that this was even a story and ridiculed South Asians as inherently ugly and poor. Quote, is the writer a tranny lover too? Or perhaps he's just trying to justify how these trannies tricked this Bangladeshi in the first place. Look, man, we don't need to know whether or not they were attractive. The effing guy was Bangladeshi. What the hell was he doing with $7,300 worth of stuff? The guy's Bangladeshi. End quote. In another post, Carasone described how a male coach at a Japanese high school had sexually abused female players. People in Japan were horrified by this, understandably. Carasone was not. His advice, quote, lighten up, Japs. Later that month, Carasone, by now in a frenzy of racism, heaped praise on a former Ku Klux Klan leader. In still another post from the same period, Carasone described a Jewish man as being handsome, quote, despite his Jewry. Carasone didn't like the man's political views, but attributed them to, quote, his possession of several bags of Jewish gold, end quote. Jewish gold. According to Angela Carasone, Jewish gold is a problem. Media Matters probably ought to issue a press release about this. They've done a lot more for a lot less. And yet somehow, and this is the remarkable part, Chris Hayes managed to pretend that none of this ever happened. Hayes never mentioned the Jewish gold. He never said a word about the Japs or the trannies or the Klan or even those dirty Bangladeshis who deserve what they get no matter what the tranny lovers say. None of that. Instead, Hayes gave cover to Carasone's bigotry and anti-Semitism. Amazingly, he even directed his viewers to Carasone's website.
Angela Carasone, of course, all that can be found at Media Matters website, so you can listen to the full clips, get the full context.
Right. Pretty amazing.
New Right Network is where you get your real information, folks. Real writers, real voices, and real news. Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, she's got so much baggage that it's unbelievable. And now this, as she goes on to MSNBC, and they attempt to throw shade for her. At Chuck Costello tweets out the video, and he says, Liz Warren says she has zero sympathy for those who cheat to gain entrance into college. Wonder how Native Americans feel about that statement. You can't make this stuff up. Check it out.
So as a parent, how much sympathy would you have for these parents who are embroiled in this alleged cheating scandal?
Zero.
Zero. Okay.
And we reported on this developing story yesterday. Apparently, two women in Hollywood paying tens of thousands of dollars, attempting to get their daughters into the University of Southern California, now caught in a scam. FBI Morning Dawn raid of their homes because apparently they were such a threat to the community that they couldn't just show up and say, "Hey, come down to the precinct. We need you to we need to talk to you for a minute and book you." Walk to the door with a warrant. Why do you need guns drawn like Roger Stone? At this point in time, the FBI has shown itself to be out of control. The FBI needs to be reined in or completely dissolved. And as we talked about Islam yesterday, and as we talk about socialism and communism, because both of these ideologies align directly with each other, both of them do the exact same thing. They suppress and enslave the citizens of that state while the super elites become rich with total control and total power, all under the guise of fairness. NBC New York reporting that a vile and disgusting anti-Semitic poster of Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been defaced in Brooklyn. Why the Democrats embrace this hate is because it's to divide the Americans, divide and conquer the citizens of America, pit one race against another, pit one religion against another, pit one ideology against another. And as we see throughout social media, where people claim that a white nationalist, a Trump supporter, is spewing anti-Semitic sentiments or is putting up the Nazi salute, we always find out that it's some crazy Democrat in the background that's been gaslit by its own party. Even Democrat victims that are black posting all over college campuses, white racist hate, it's all them. It's their projection. Democrat Party owns this. They've gaslight their entire voting bloc. So folks, hashtag walk away, hashtag Blexit, hashtag Jexodus. Jews walking away from the Democrat Party. And this at Zionist Girl 18. Did you know? Palestinian Sirhan assassinated Robert F. Kennedy in 1968 because he supported Israel. Hashtag Thursday Thoughts. This is no longer the Democrat Party of years bygone. This Democrat Party has been completely hijacked by the socialist communist regimes, by Justice Democrats, by Democrat Socialist of America. They have completely hijacked this party. They make no bones about it now that they absolutely want to bring socialism, which leads to communism, into America. This is why we have to stop them at every single turn. And this video by Brigitte Gabriel, Media Research Center. This is an oldie but goodie. This is absolutely what you need to inform your friends and family members if somebody says the majority of Islam is peaceful.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace to you all. My name is Saba Ahmed. I'm a law student at American University. I am here to ask you a simple question. I know that we portray Islam and all Muslims as bad, but there's 1.8 billion Muslim followers of Islam. We have 8 million plus Muslim Americans in this country, and I don't see them represented here. But my question is, how can we fight an ideological war with weapons? How can we ever end this war? The jihadist ideology that you talk about, it's an ideology. How can you ever win this thing if you don't address it ideologically?
Great question. I am so glad you're here, and I am so glad you brought that up because it gives us an opportunity to answer. What I find so amazing is since the beginning of this panel, which we are here about Benghazi attack against our people, not one person mentioned Muslims. We are here against Islam, or we're launching war against Muslims. We are here to discuss how 4 Americans died and what our government is doing. We were not here to bash Muslims. You were the one who brought up the issue about most Muslims, not us. And since you brought it up, allow me to elaborate with my answer. There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful people. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big of the United States. So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful, yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died, almost 14 million in concentration camps, 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. So for all our powers of reasons and us talking about moderate and peaceful Muslims, I'm glad you're here. But where are the others speaking out? And since you are the only Muslim representative, send the applause till the end. Thank you. Thank you. And since you're the only Muslim representative in here, you took the limelight instead of speaking about why our government, and I assume, are you an American? You're an American citizen. So as an American citizen, you sat in this room and instead of standing up and saying a question or asking something about our 4 Americans that died and what our government is doing to correct the problem, you stood there to make a point about peaceful, moderate Muslims. I wish you brought 10 with you to question about how we can hold our government responsible. It is time we take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs and stop calling it.
And with that being said, follow us on Twitter at Brian P. Smith, SMYTH, and my co-host, who should be back by next week, at Smith Radio, SMYTH. Also, we are under the big tent party of at New Right Network, and you're watching New Right Network tonight. Go to smith.tv, crush the share, crush the follow. While you're at smith.tv, jump over to the Patreon. We do this out of our own pocket and with the support of our incredible Patreons. If you like what you hear, share this with your friends and family and consider giving a Patreon donation. Every single dollar helps. This is the new media movement. This is what's going to continue to expose bad candidates running for office and the good candidates that we need to vote for as well. We are the media that is going to give you the real news and help Donald J. Trump get elected 2020 to continue to make America great again. America first, America's interests first, whether it's trade deals, whether it's border security, or our national interests. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at newrightnetwork.com.